उनकी तो आगे पीछे कर दे।
3 है नहीं, आगे पीछे नहीं, ऑडियंस में है। अभी कितना मार्जिन लिखे
45 पे 15 मिनट।
नहीं, इसमें फिर ये होगा कि क्वेश्चन आंसर का सेशन बढ़ जाएगा। ठीक है ना, मुझे इसको 11 बजे ख़त्म करना है।
ठीक है,
अभी टाइम क्या हुआ, क्योंकि बाकी जगह पे ना मार्जिन, इधर मार्जिन नहीं है, 9:40 हो रहे हैं। मेरा ख्याल है 5 मिनट इंतज़ार करो और रेडी स्टार्ट करो।
ठीक, कैसे? हाँ, मजनू से स्टार्ट कर देंगे।
बुला लो, नहीं है तो क्या करें।
तो उनको बता देते हैं।
बोलिए इफ देयर इज़ अ चांस कि आपकी कहीं
लोडेड है सर। आपके पास मेरी फ्रेंड नजर आती है मैं ड्यू पे देखती हूँ अगर जब वरना जावेद अली खान का ड्यू एंड हैबिटाट के प्रोग्राम है। मैं यहाँ स्टार्ट कर रही हूँ, आप ये अनाउंस करते हो। In the name of Allah, the most gracious and the most merciful. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. I am Faiza Saeed, lecturer at the Department of Civil Engineering, NED University and member Local Council IEP Karachi Center. I welcome you all to the International Conference on Sustainable Engineering and Development Day 2. Today we have multiple technical sessions in parallel. This is session number 1. Its title is Sustainable Cities and Urban Regions. We have session number 2 on poverty and hunger alleviation, and our session number 3 is human equality. These two sessions are being held right now parallel in Ambassador 1 Hall and Ambassador 3. Let's start with this session. Our first technical presentation is by architect Arif Hassan. He is an architect, planner, activist, teacher, researcher, and author of large number of books, research papers, and monographs on urban development issues. He has been the principal consultant to the Aurangi Pilot Project Research and Training Institute from 1981 to 2017 and is the father of technology and extension process of its sanitation and housing programs. I request him to please come forward and deliver a technical presentation on status of cities in Pakistan from the lens of sustainability. Please, sir.
उर्दू में बोलता है अंग्रेजी में?
अंग्रेजी में बोल रहे सर।
अंग्रेजी में बोल रहे
Thank you, sir.
अच्छा। First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for having invited me to give this talk. It's a difficult talk to give because the newspapers have been full of this subject. Loads and loads of statistics have been churned out, and the statistics conflict with each other quite often, including the government of Pakistan's statistics also. They conflict with each other as well. So I'm not going to pay much attention to statistics. Anybody who reads the newspapers and listens to the news is aware of at least listens to the tragedy that is going to happen. So I'll try and limit the number of statistics, and then I will talk a little bit about trends which are going to play an important role in our future of cities. ये कहाँ से चलता है, कोई होगा ना इसका, आ गया. This is self-explanatory, these statistics. You can see how the urban population has increased, and if it keeps increasing at this rate, then we are going to have great problems in housing this, feeding it, etc., etc. So sustainability really depends on whether we can cater to the needs of this population. Right now, we are not catering to its housing needs, we are not catering to its energy needs, we are not catering to its food needs. क्या हो गया इसको? नहीं चलता. Anyway, now also we see how the size of cities is, हो गया. But we cannot talk about, कहाँ से चलता है यार, ये है ना, यहाँ से चले, ये बैकवर्ड है, ये फॉरवर्ड है, मैं उल्टा चला रहा हूँ, ठीक है. Pakistan's urbanization cannot be divorced from the legacy of partition. 1.8 million people, additional 1.8 million people came to Pakistan as a result of partition. And as a result of partition, urban population, especially in the Punjab, increased by anything up to 192%. Faisalabad, Gujranwala, Lodhran, and Sindh it was only Karachi and Hyderabad. Mirpur Khas came much later. So this population had to be housed, this population had to be fed, there were no resources, and so the bureaucracy and the government was very accommodating of this population. They were given a place to stay, ad hoc arrangements were made for water and sanitation, and the most important thing was that informal settlements developed to house this population. And those informal settlements were established and they grew with the passage of time. The population explosion and the end of effective means of governance after partition also meant that the needs of the cities were met in an ad hoc manner. You needed cargo terminals, you planned for them, but well before you could implement the plans, they had already developed on wherever space was available. Education, health, these institutions developed wherever space was available. Hawkers, bazaars, because people needed employment, developed wherever space was available, and all this was given support by the judiciary at that time. So what we inherited within a few years of partition were large cities that really had no plans and that had developed as a pressure of need. Cities normally don't wait for planning. When there is a need, they somehow or the other fulfill that need. And that is what happened to us. But in the post-2000, a conscious effort has been made through various plans to undo what was done and try and gentrify the cities. But though that gentrification has only taken place in the elite areas and upper middle class areas, it has not taken place anywhere else. So there is a growing gap between the rich and the poor areas. And that's the most frightening thing about urbanization in Pakistan, that this gap is growing and we are moving towards a situation where there is considerable resentment. And because of this gap, there is also constant bulldozing of settlements, which is leading to the destruction of homes without the provision of new homes. And it is estimated that during the last decade and a half, we made approximately 10 million people homeless. इसकी थोड़ी सी बात करते हैं इस पे आगे. Now the other issue is how urban is Pakistan. And this is an important issue because before 1981, our definition of urban was very similar to that of India's, which meant that settlements of 5,000 and above, which had urban characteristics, were regarded as urban. 1981 and after, the definition was changed to those settlements which had an urban governance system. As a result, in the 1981 census, 1,483 settlements of over 5,000 were not considered for being declared urban, but they had been urban in the previous census. If you simply add these settlements, Pakistan was over 50% urban at that time. So the definition of urban has completely changed the connotation of urban. If you apply the Indian definition of urban, then we are far more urban. According to Raza Ali's work, we are about 56% urban if you apply India's definition of urban. So, yeah, aap khud hi padh lijiye. I don't have to read this out. I think anybody who has followed the urbanization process in Pakistan knows this. Okay, but an important thing is that administrative boundaries of many urban areas do not include their peri-urban settlements, which in socio-economic and physical terms have urban characteristics. Iski misal दूं. In the 1998 census, DHA in Lahore was rural. The area between in Faisalabad, the Jalamala extension was all rural. It was not considered urban. So what does it mean? It simply means that we are dealing with statistics and definitions that have numerous contradictions in them. So unless we have the correct figures, how are we going to obtain any form of sustainability? Aage chale. Okay. The other important thing is that the number of settlements, ये बहुत important है ये, the number of settlements, ये आप देखिएगा, that are large in size have increased constantly. And the number of settlements that are small in size have decreased to an extent that they are almost non-existent. Now, so we will be governing more and more larger settlements of over 1 million, and soon over 3 to 5 million. This slide presents the picture before you. So what sort of governance systems are required? A simple municipal council, the sort that exists today for many of these settlements, cannot deliver services. It neither has the budget nor the taxation rights. It depends entirely upon provincial doles. So if this trend continues, then we will have to reorganize our whole concept of urban governance. Again, the case of migration, ये मैंने highlight किया हुआ है. In the case of Sindh, migration is extremely high. In the case of the other provinces, migration is fairly well contained. Balochistan, Quetta and Peshawar have had extraordinary growth, but that is because of the Afghan war and migration from the Afghan war. But Sindh's increase, which is the highest here, 7.5, 7.4, is entirely as a result of migration from other provinces, as you can see from this table. So over here we have a very important issue, and that relates to Karachi, that it is the only capital of a province which does not speak the language of the province. So it is a non-Sindhi speaking capital of a predominantly Sindhi speaking province, and that creates certain political lacunas, as a result of which we have constantly been changing our system of governance. And I think for the future we will keep changing it. Even now discussions are going on how to adjust to the new political realities. This is just to show you through some maps how things have changed. ये आप खुद ही देख लीजिए. इसको वापस ले. Yeah. This is how it is today. And here you see two regions which I have encircled. One in central Punjab, north and central Punjab, and the other in Sindh, which we can no longer say are cities over here or towns. These are really urban regions. They share water resources. They share wastewater disposal areas. They share industry and energy controls. They share industrial outputs. And if you look at these images of these two areas at night, you see that they are like crabs. You have the city with roads being lit up for a short distance, and there is another settlement, and there is another settlement. So these are urban regions, and they need regional plans. Master plans and city plans are not enough for them. And we do not have a tradition of implementing regional plans, although we often make regional plans. Okay. Now, urban areas' role in Pakistan's economy, it's extremely important, as you can see from this slide. 55% of national GDP comes from the cities. They generate 95% of federal revenue. 10 major cities do. Karachi alone generates 15 to 20% of total GDP. So this is extremely important, and this is the reason why people migrate to the cities, because there are jobs that are available here. And the big question is, are we going to increase these jobs and increase the role of the economy, the role of urban areas in the economy? Because if we do, the migration to the cities will continue. It will not stop. So this is one of the big challenges of sustainability. Housing supply gap. By the way, these figures, I don't believe them because they change so often that one cannot really say what is correct and what is not correct. I leave this to you to read. I won't read this out. It's fairly straightforward. I leave Karachi alone. Again, this is something that keeps coming in the press all the time. Now, to maintain the present backlog, this is again government figures, you require rupees 1 billion annually for 10 years. क्या करूं? आप जहां कहें मैं आ जाता हूं. The last budget allocation for housing was 2.3 billion, and 1 billion annually is required just to keep us at the present level. Now I am finished with statistics. I don't think we need any more statistics. The picture is quite clear. But there are certain trends, and I would like to highlight those trends. There are gated housing communities, there is massive social change, there is increase in vehicular traffic, there is the issue of women and planning, because there has been a great gender revolution in this country, and there is the emergence of urban regions, which I have already discussed. I think it's important also for Karachiites to see the extent of poverty, quote-unquote poverty, as evidenced by the number of plots. 71.32% of Karachiites live on less than 100 square yard plots, and only 1.47% live in plots of up to 140 square yards. This is 2006 figures. Now, all over Pakistan, real estate has emerged as big business, facilitated by government's financial support and new zoning laws and regulations. Ye hukumat ne kiya hai. They have made this possible. It's good for architects and engineers. In Karachi, there are more than 150 gated communities being developed. Marriott town is 186 square kilometers, which means it is more than 3 times Manhattan. DHA is 47 square kilometers. There are 120 buildings of between 20 and 50 floors which are being constructed in the city center. This process involves land occupied by coercion and for which No arrangement has been made for the communities that have been removed. These developments will add more than 120 vehicles to an already congested city. And these vehicles will essentially be entering the city from these gated colonies. So how will this be managed? Bahria town offered the government of Sindh the building of a light rail from Bahria town to Tower. Anyway, it never materialized, but that was a solution. So this is going to be a very major problem. ये तो मैंने कर लिया. Land loss. Because of these, there are other developments also. There are people who need houses and can't afford them. So 15,000 hectares has been reclaimed from mangroves, destroying flora and fauna. This 15,000 acres was in the period of 2015 and 2020. And the city's expansion has evicted more than 2,800 villages. In 1985, 75% of Karachi's vegetable fruit requirements in season came from its rural areas. In 2013, this was reduced to 10%. Since 1947, an estimated 60 billion cubic meters of sand and gravel has been illegally lifted for construction from the seasonal rivers, preventing water runoff, thus making recharging of the aquifer impossible and depleting the rainwater aquifer on which agriculture depends. So these are some issues of sustainability, but let's go to other cities of Pakistan as well. Okay. Multan, mango orchards have been depleted to an extent that the mango industry in Punjab is facing a very big crisis. ये फिगर्स आपके सामने हैं और ये पुरानी फिगर्स हैं. This is 2012. I'll just be trying to finish this off. Faisalabad, exactly the same process, which you can see here. There are illegal housing schemes at 245, under process housing schemes are 169, sanctioned housing schemes are 121, and these are all on the periphery of Faisalabad. In the Punjab, they call these settlements colonies. Almost all the colonies are empty, even those that began 10 to 15 years ago. With the advent of the motorbike, the colonies are now developing in the villages as well, because from the villages you can come 30 kilometers, 20 kilometers by motorbike. And this is increasing the population of urban centers during the day. There is no proper statistics of to what extent urban populations increase during the day. But in the case of Liari in Karachi, its daytime population is 3,000 plus persons per hectare, and its nighttime is 1,800 persons per hectare. So you can imagine the extent of people who come into these settlements, and you will have to cater to them, which we are not catering to them. No toilets, no place where they can do business, they do it on the roads. So these are issues that we will, okay. Then the most important is water stress. This red line gives you the extent of that stress. कहाँ से आएगा ये पानी? We will have to do something about it. क्या हुआ, बंद हो गया? इसमें तो और चीजें भी थी. let me come to it. Okay, I'll stop. Just go through this. Okay. Social change. A huge social change has taken place in Pakistan. And that change is that the extended family, which was the backbone of, at one time, of social cohesion, is very fast disappearing. In the case of the urban areas, large urban areas, it has already disappeared. And that has given considerable freedom to the nuclear elements in a family, a freedom that did not exist before. Vehicular traffic ki to maine baat nahi ki, let's leave it. The second is women and planning. For the first time in the last 20 years, women have a public face. आपकी cricket team है, you have a football team, you have women athletes, you have women TikTokers, and they are world class, all of them. There are bureaucrats, there are police women. This was rare, almost non-existent. There are more teachers at the university level. In some universities, there are women. The entire medical profession, at least that which graduates, is 87% women. So it's a huge change. And you have to prepare for this change. You have to plan for this change. The manner in which a house is used has changed. The manner in which public spaces are used is undergoing a change. So this aspect is a very important aspect which we are not at all looking into. And the other aspect of social change is also the link between the rural and the urban areas. As migration increases, so does this link between the two increase. Finally, I'll say something about migration. I've given you some figures, but we have made a lot of studies on migration in Karachi. The migration of the 60s, 70s, 80s was different from the migration today. That migration was of elders or of young people who came to live with their elders. Today's migration is of young people who come in groups. They do not come with their elders. And they do not come to their elders either. So the whole rental market, especially in low-income settlements, has undergone a very big change. Before, you never got accommodation. Now, it is possible to get accommodation as single males, as 2 or 3 females together. This was impossible before. So there are very many changes for which we are not prepared. And the biggest change is inequity, which I have already spoken about. Thank you very much for listening to me. And I hope that the conference will deal with the process of change, which is perhaps the most important thing that is happening in Pakistan. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Arif Hassan Sahab, for enlightening us with our findings and your knowledge. Mr. Arif has discussed about the trends that are emerging in the urban center and how important is the role of urban areas in economic development. He also discussed the demand and supply gap in Karachi and the emergence of gated society and how it has greatly compromised and damaged our ecosystem. Our next technical presentation is on review of initiatives by Aga Khan Agency of Habitat in the context of sustainability by Ms. Nusrat Nasab. Ms. Nusrat Nasab has been working in the field of development and disaster risk reduction for over 2 decades. Currently, she is Chief Executive Officer at Aga Khan Agency for Habitat, Pakistan. Prior to this role, she was on an international assignment and serving as Head of Emergency Management at AKAH. Ma'am, please join the session. Which one is this? Okay.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning. I'll talk about the practical solutions which many organizations like the AKDN are doing on ground. Before doing the presentation, I take the opportunity to thank NED for organizing such a wonderful and on-time conference and inviting us to share our experience. So, before going to the Aga Khan Agency for Habitat, I thought I should talk about the Aga Khan Development Network. It will give a bigger picture and then we can focus on the ACA's initiative. I will walk you through the AKDN's environment and climate responses. Then we will also see what ACA and other agencies have done in, what's the footprint in Pakistan, and then examples of sustainability. So the Ismaili Imamat has established these institutions under one network. It's called the Aga Khan Development Network. If we look at the sectors, there are 3 major sectors. One is economic development, social development, and culture. So the economic development, as you can see from the name, it works on tourism promotion service, industrial promotion service, financial solutions. Even we work in media, and we have aviation service as well. On the culture side, it's more about this award for architecture, the historical cities development, the music initiative, and the museum. Aga Khan Agency for Habitat falls under the social development, and we have education service there, the universities, and the bank service together with the health service. So where do we work? The Aga Khan Development Network mainly works in 30 countries. We have actually over 100 years of experience on this earth. If I may say, the first school of the Aga Khan Education Service was established in 1905 in Gwadar in Pakistan. So how we choose our geography is the most, vulnerable ones, and you can clearly see, be it a mountainous Asia or the Indian, ocean, and then, the river plains, or the rural areas, be it in Pakistan or in Africa, and the vulnerable urban area where there is the informal settlements. So the AKDN environment and climate response, if we talk about sector, that includes the sustainable agriculture and all on the list through the green, energy and economy. There are two components which is cross-cutting for us, and that is gender equality and the net zero carbon. I think when I say gender equality, I mean it, and I am a product, or I have gone through this AKDN process to come here, my education, my even the career. Today I'm here in front of you. So agriculture and forestry, I won't go for the number. If you really want to learn about, you know, the sectors and the number, you can go to our website and clearly see each and everything is there. But what I want to highlight here is the resilience building to environmental degradation and climate change through community management is, I think, a niche for the AKDN, and same goes for forestry and ecosystem, because we work closely with the community and that makes it more sustainable. The health and education, we call it low carbon, high quality, accessible health care for the communities. And then within that, I think the AKU is an example in our neighbor. In 2021, the National Health Incubator was one of, I would say, a good example of innovation. And the education sector includes research, and also we started enriching the curriculum, because the national curriculum you can't change, but what you can do is you enrich the curriculum. So in our schools, there are 200 across Pakistan. We do that enrichment for environment, for climate change, for disaster preparedness. Energy and economy, that's more on promoting sustainable energy transition by investing in energy efficient and renewable energy solutions, and my organization takes a key part in that. The green economy, of course, like if we work across sector with green economic activities, that's going to give us, you know, the smart climate financing for these solutions. And I think one thing I should highlight here is the green bond in Pakistan worth USD 500 million. It's a collaboration with the WAPDA. So that's one key example, I would say, for a private sector to work on that scale. And green technology, especially for the youth, how like we start the trend with starts up and small businesses. So it comes to natural hazards and buildings. So that's more about like building local capacity to anticipate and respond to disaster and climate risks by developing not only the community's strength but also the institutional capacity. And in a majority of the work is of course in the areas I mentioned, and over 2,300 settlements we have done a detailed hazard vulnerability and risk assessment. Maybe later on one example could come, and what does that mean for us. Then we have trained over 38,000 first responders. Those are community members, and 39% of them are women. When we were in the traditional areas, the rate was 50%, but when we went to non-traditional areas where maybe, the female participation still requires a lot of attention, then this number dropped a little bit. There are 88 weather monitoring posts. These are very basic tool. It's a community managed weather monitoring post, but the result, it could really align with the scientific, knowledge, because the universities, not only in Pakistan, they are approaching us, but in the US and others, they use our data, and then, when they do the modeling, this could change the modeling result and bring it to a more of a real situation. Then we talk about building an infrastructure. That is, our aim is to, bring affordable construction, low carbon buildings, and reduce the GHG emission, and water use from existing building while improving safety and comfort. And AKDN has already, developed the green building guidelines, and we have been following that. And also in countries, we align that global, guideline with the countries. And again, we are on the advisory board of the previous Prime Minister who established this committee. We have a niche in, I would say, a clean drinking water supply scheme. Out of the 700,000 beneficiaries, over 600,000 are in Pakistan. Similarly, because of the interventions, there are 60% reductions in biomass consumption and also waterborne diseases. So now when it comes to ACA, the Aghan Agency for Habitat is it's an apex agency in the network, and the purpose is that people live in safe, sustainable and resilient habitat with the opportunity to thrive. Be it a remote mountain village, a town, or a densely populated urban center, we have areas where we are working, and we want to do more together with other partners. We help the communities to prepare for the worst situation. Especially our emergency management service is very efficient, and we have adopted the British Columbia model, which is a worldwide renowned. It's called Incident Command System and Emergency Operations Center. I think who comes from the Army background, they know more about how it functions. So with that mandate, that is to safety, resilience, and service and opportunity, ACA works in 7 countries, and that's on the map. I don't want to name them more, but we are also thinking to go beyond these 7 countries. So when we talk about the strategic framework, the mission is to create a habitat that allows community to be resilient to disasters, adapt to climate change, and thrive. So for that, we came up with 3 pillars. That is a plan. Because when you plan, that enables the community to better plan for their resilient future. Then we talk about prepare. That is, you have to prepare the community and institutions to respond to and also to reduce risk. And then, progress is something where you can empower the communities to increase the capacity to adapt to climate change and then progress. The other areas like be it habitat planning or disaster risk management or green and resilient construction or climate resilience. These are our main program and the components mentioned under that. This is just the program and sustainability part. So I would say there are 2 main program: emergency management, planning and building. But our main focus for today is the middle one. That is a combination of that, and that is more on urban resilience together with the net zero emission. So the approach we take is we believe that everything should be done pre-event, that is pre-disaster. We take a multi-hazard approach, we take a community-centric approach, and then above all, standardization is something which is very close to our heart. I think I was mentioning to a colleague here that we are very picky. We won't go for each and every opportunity. We will look at, what could be delivered, because it carries a name there. So we are very conscious about our branding. So far, where are we? So as I mentioned about, the hazard, vulnerability and risk assessment, we have covered 3 million people. We are doing some remote hazard monitoring, including 15 glacier lakes. And then, the water supply we talked about, and we have built 50,000 plus family homes and over 5,000 hospitals, schools and community centers in the remote areas. And then habitat planning activities is something I think which is unique, and we have partners for that, and particularly we have worked on the tools with MIT, and we are working with the UN Habitat. So the global framework or the tool has been developed, and every country implements it by that standard. So in Pakistan, that's our footprint. We are almost across province. In some province we will be more visible, in others maybe we have small projects. So what are the key highlights? I won't go to the details, but what are we proud about is, I think, I personally believe that we as a Acadian make Pakistan proud. We are the recipients of World Habitat 2020 Gold Award. We do participate in the SARC competition, and above all there is this Edge Advanced and LEED Gold certificate. We have constructed that building recently in Gilgit. That is the first building not only in Pakistan. The IFC representative visited last month, and he said this is the first in the region. So that's, I think, a very proud moment for all of us. We work very closely with the government, and together with there is this IT park in Hunza. We are constructing together with, it's an army-owned, this special communication organization. So we have signed MOU with them, and we are partners. By the way, we have also worked on some early warning system with the army, because they are at the border, so we have to work very closely with them. And sometimes, for example, at night time, if you need some early warning system and if you need NVG, by law you are not allowed to use that, but it's the only organization is the army. So we have a great experience during Atabad time that we had collaborated on that. So I won't go into the detail much, but these are the legacy and our footprints and high impacts that when we worked with the clean drinking water and sanitation, how it has reduced, the waterborne disease, and also, time for women to spend it more productively. The climate smart solution is something when it comes to building improvement programs, especially in the mountainous region, people use fuel wood. So when we provide efficient energy, the fuel wood has gone down, and also, the indoor environment has improved. For the resiliency, we talked about how we have established the community emergency response teams. They are the first responders, and then we work at the school, and also, we have an inclusive planning advocacy and advocacy tool, be it construction or any policy level work. So this is just to show you the before and after impact of certain buildings, and that is here in interior Sindh. Again, solid waste management when we talk about the green initiative. For the recent flood, we responded as a AKDN, and you can see the names over there. So the health was led by the Khan University here in Sindh, and over 400,000 people got medical, support. ACA provided relief. Mainly we worked in the mountainous region. We were very keen to work in both in Sindh in particular and Balochistan. We were waiting for funding because for certain areas where we have to be dependent on the external funding. His Highness gave 10 million USD for the flood response. 5 million went to the government, and 5 million came to us, and that's how we are working. So this is one example of village when it was washed away. So I am giving it here because there is, when we talk about sustainability, I think the relocation from that village is the only solution. Why I am quoting it here is, you can see the scale of the disaster. There were houses, but not a single life was lost. That I consider as sustainability. And the mapping I was referring to, this is an example. We do these type of mapping, and you can clearly see the red area where it was showing it a high risk area, and that's what happened. During this flood, we have came up with ACA's prefab homes. We call it lightweight prefabricated homes. I don't call it shelter because it will last for over 50 years. And you can clearly see how eco-friendly that is, and it gives 30% less embedded carbon than the conventional building. Sustainability framework, again, I think this is very important that government takes the ownership, and we have to do the community advocacy. The transparency is something within the sustainable framework, and then linking it to different sectors, and then prioritizing, and then a long-term partnership is something sustainability demands. This is one example from the ACA Tajikistan's work. I was there, so I thought instead of talking about Pakistan, maybe one example from other region with the same terrain could be useful. So it's a 5-year plan. It is the government, it is the AKDN, and it is the donor. These are the areas where we are looking. On the top, you can clearly see there are some other, for example, one in India, in Afghanistan, and in Pakistan. We have one examples of this habitat planning. So it's a mixed use of like economic, center where it should be. How should you mitigate your hazards? Then how you can, build your infrastructure, how you can retrofit some of it. And then, the network is one thing, like the communication itself. And then there are areas which needs to be regenerated. So why habitat planning? Because this is the only, I think, solution for Pakistan that we do it right. And then, if everything is in place, I think pulling together the puzzle will be more easy rather than, reinventing the wheel or searching for. So I'm just close to my presentation. So this is the habitat planning framework of ACA. As I mentioned, we developed it together with MIT and the UN Habitat. So it has 9 steps. If somebody is interested, I think I will look towards the academia and especially the youth, the students here, and the organizations and the experts where we can really make it happen in Pakistan. So that is the path towards sustainable development. I have talked about like what the planning itself is, how you can engage the community, and how we can identify and prioritize the need within that, and then what are the safe areas for human settlements, and make it kind of the rule of law that these are the areas where only human settlements should take place. These are the areas where one should not build. With that, thank you so much. If you have any question, I think there will be taken later. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nusrat Ansar. She briefed us with the introduction of Aga Khan Development Network and how this network is bringing change in the society by enriching education sector, by increasing institutional capacity to combat natural hazards in buildings. And she also discussed Aga Khan Agency of Habitat's strategic framework through which they are providing safe and resilient habitat. Then she highlighted some of the major achievements, and with the example of lightweight prefabricated homes they are provided in flood-prone areas. Our next presenter is architect Muhammad Yunus. He is working as director at Urban Resource Center. He is also a member of Community Architects and Training Program at Asian Coalition of Housing Rights, a regional network based in Bangkok, Thailand. Today he will talk about case studies of sustainable housing developments in Sindh. Please, sir, come forward.
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया ऑर्गेनाइज़र का कि मुझे उन्होंने यहाँ पे अपना एक प्रोजेक्ट की प्रेजेंटेशन के लिए मौका दिया। बेसिकली ये जो हमारा प्रोजेक्ट है ये फ्लड रिहेबिलिटेशन का प्रोजेक्ट है जो हम सिंध के 3 डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स में कर रहे हैं, सांगड़, मीरपुर ख़ास और उमरकोट में। ये प्रोजेक्ट हम लोकल कम्युनिटीज़ और लोकल पार्टनर्स के साथ मिलके वहाँ इम्प्लीमेंट कर रहे हैं। ये बहुत छोटा सा प्रोजेक्ट है, बेसिकली डेमोस्ट्रेट जो इस वक्त की नीड्स हैं उनको कैटर करने के लिए हमने शुरू किया था। फ्लड्स के बाद हम जब गए थे सिचुएशन देखने के लिए इन इलाकों में, तो काफ़ी जो लोग हैं काफ़ी परेशान और मिजरेबल कंडीशंस में थे। और क्राइसिस इतने ज़्यादा हो गए हैं। फिर उसके बाद जो बड़ा मसला है वो हेल्थ का है। मेल न्यूट्रिशन, मलेरिया, डेंगी, डायरिया, ये जो है बहुत कामन है। हेल्थ का कोई भी इशू होता है तो आसपास कोई हॉस्पिटल नहीं है, इनको बहुत ट्रैवल करके आसपास के बड़े शहरों में जाना पड़ता है। ट्रैवलिंग खुद एक बड़ा मसला है इनके लिए और बहुत ज़्यादा कॉस्ट है। मसले और भी बहुत सारे हैं, मगर जो चीज़ लोगों ने हमें बताई वो ये था कि क्लाइमेट चेंज जो है वो एक हकीकत है। अब हर 1-2 साल बाद बारिशें होंगी और बारिशों के बाद जो भी हम रीसेटलमेंट या रिहेबिलिटेशन का काम कर रहे हैं वो फिर बह जाएगा। जो भी होगा, जो भी हमारी काविशें होंगी, क्योंकि जो बड़े प्रॉब्लम उन्होंने बताए हैं कि मसला सैलाब नहीं है, मसला जो है बारिशें नहीं है, मसला ये है कि इन इलाकों में ड्रेनेज का कोई फैसिलिटी मौजूद नहीं है। पानी जो है मुख्तलिफ़ जगहों पर ट्रैप होता है और उसे निकालने का कोई ज़रिया मौजूद नहीं है। सड़कें ऊंची हैं, लोगों के ज़मीन नीचे हैं, जहाँ पानी आता है, और ड्रेनेज कहीं पे भी नहीं बनाया है। बहुत कम जगहों पे ड्रेनेज फैसिलिटीज़ अवेलेबल हैं। जहाँ पे ड्रेनेज फैसिलिटीज़ प्रॉपर है वहाँ से तो पानी निकल जाता है, मगर जहाँ ड्रेनेज नहीं है वहाँ पे पानी ट्रैप होता है और उसे निकालने का कोई ज़रिया मौजूद नहीं है। एक दूसरा मसला जो वाटर के नेचुरल पाथवेज हैं उन पे इंक्रोचमेंट्स का है। कई जगह पे हाउसिंग सोसाइटीज़ बन गई हैं और दूसरी किस्म के ब्लॉकेज हैं, जिसकी वजह से जो है पानी को निकालने का रास्ता नहीं मिलता और इसी के वजह से लोग डूबते हैं। अगर ड्रेनेज को बेहतर किया जाए, नेचुरल पाथवेज को खोला जाए तो सैलाब इतना बड़ा मसला नहीं कर सकता, पानी आएगा और निकल जाएगा। इन विलेजेस में जब हमने मुख्तलिफ विलेजेस का जाके देखा तो एक चीज़ हमें ये तो नज़र आई, जैसे ही पानी जहाँ से उतर रहा था लोग जो है वापस जा रहे थे और उन्होंने जो है अपने रिहेबिलिटेशन का काम दोबारा खुद शुरू किया। बजाय किसी का इंतज़ार करने के उन्होंने अपने टूटे फूटे घर, अपने लाइवलीहुड को जो है दोबारा बनाना शुरू किया था। और यही मेरे ख्याल में हमारे इंटरवेंशन का एक पॉइंट है, जो लोग खुद काम कर रहे हैं उनको सपोर्ट किया जाए और उसी में चिप इन किया जाए ताकि वो बेहतर तरीके से अपनी रिहेबिलिटेशन खुद करें, क्योंकि जो काम लोग खुद करेंगे वो कॉस्ट इफेक्टिव होगा, सस्टेनेबल होगा और जल्दी जो है वो बन सकेगा। जो हमारा प्रोजेक्ट है बेसिकली हम लोगों को सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं। एक तो उनके जो घर हैं उनको दोबारा बनाने में, ये जो रूरल हाउसिंग है बेसिकली हम देख रहे हैं ट्रेडिशनली और सेंचुरीज से ये देख रहे हैं कि लोग मड हाउसेस में रहते थे, मगर इस वक्त पॉवर्टी की जो सिचुएशन है ये लोग ये मड हाउसेस भी बनाना अफोर्ड नहीं कर सकते। तो हमारा जो काम हमने जो शुरू किया, एक तरह से हमने कम्युनिटी के साथ पार्टनरशिप बिल्टअप की है कि वो ये घर अपने दोबारा हमारे साथ मिल के बनाएं। यानी उनको जो हमने देखा कि वो लोग जो है ये दीवारें खुद बना सकते हैं, मड की दीवारें। ये जो मड के दीवारें किस तरह बनाई जाती हैं वो हम सबको पता है कि एक तो हैंडमेड ब्लॉक से बनाते हैं, जो मड की ब्लॉकें हैं कच्ची, उससे दूसरा तरीका ये है कि वो मड की लेयर रख के बनाते हैं अपने घरों को। अगर ये जो मड है इसकी मिक्सिंग प्रॉपर तरीके से हो, इसमें जो भूसा है और जो गोबर है सही तरह मिल जाता है, तो लोग खुद इस प्रोजेक्ट में लोग अपने दीवारें खुद बनाते हैं। हम जो सपोर्ट करते हैं वो रूफिंग मटेरियल उनको जो है वो सपोर्ट करते हैं। ये जो देखें इतने यानी ज़्यादातर लोग ऐसे हैं जो ये कच्ची हैंडमेड ब्लॉक से बनते हैं, वो पक्की ईंटें भी अफोर्ड नहीं कर सकते कि पक्की ईंटें लेके अपने मकान बना सकें। जब वो अपनी दीवार कंप्लीट करते हैं तो हम उनको जो है फिर ये रूफिंग मटेरियल सप्लाई करते हैं। रूफिंग मटेरियल वो फिर इरेक्ट करते हैं अपने वॉल्स पे, और ये जैसे घर बन गया। ये एक घर जो है तकरीबन 2 से 4 हफ्तों में बन जाता है, अगर इसकी स्लोप प्रॉपर हो और ये जो प्लास्टर प्रॉपर हो तो अच्छे खासा ये वाटर रेजिस्टेंस है। अगर बारिश भी हो तो इसके गिरने के चांसेस बहुत कम होते हैं। सैलाब में तो बह जाएगा, जैसे मैंने कहा, अगर हम वो ड्रेनेज और वो मसले हल नहीं करेंगे सैलाब फिर आ जाएगा। उस सैलाब में तो पक्के मकान भी बह गए हैं, तो कच्चे मकान यकीनी तौर पे वो भी बह जाएंगे। तो ये पूरा जो प्रोसेस है ये कम्युनिटी बेस्ड है। हाउसिंग की सिलेक्शन, फिर एक कमेटी है, फिर उसके जो सपोर्ट करती है एक लोकल एनजीओज़ की कमेटी है, और फिर हम लोग उसकी मॉनिटरिंग करते हैं, पूरा उसकी डॉक्यूमेंटेशन करते हैं। जितने भी मकान बन रहे हैं उनके लिस्टिंग होती है, उनके अंदर बाहर से तस्वीरें हम लेते हैं और उसकी कंप्लीट डॉक्यूमेंटेशन मौजूद है। ये सारा काम वॉलंटरी बेसिस पे होता है, इसमें कोई भी पेड स्टाफ नहीं है। प्रोजेक्ट के ये मैंने कहा एक छोटा सा प्रोजेक्ट है जो डेमोन्स्ट्रेशन के लिए हम कर रहे हैं। हाउसिंग सपोर्ट के अलावा जो इसमें कंपोनेंट है टॉयलेट कंस्ट्रक्शन का है। टॉयलेट हम जो है वो सॉकपिट टॉयलेट बना रहे हैं इस वक्त, और कोई ऑप्शन मौजूद नहीं है। मगर अल्टीमेटली जो है हमें सीवरेज की जो ट्रीटमेंट और डिस्पोजल के लिए छोटे स्केल पे कुछ सॉल्यूशन इंट्रोड्यूस कराने पड़ेंगे, क्योंकि अंडरग्राउंड वाटर इस वक्त पोल्यूटेड है, और अगर बहुत ज़्यादा सॉकपिट बनाए गए तो पोल्यूशन और बढ़ जाएगी अंडरग्राउंड पानी की। फिर हम सपोर्ट करेंगे, ये अभी स्टार्ट करने वाले हैं हैंड पंप लगाने का, जो करीबी नहरों से पानी जो है वो लोगों के घरों तक आए, और वाटर स्टोरेज के टैंक भी सपोर्ट करेंगे। फिर एक मसला जो बिजली का था, वहाँ पे हम इंस्टॉल करेंगे ये सोलर स्ट्रीट लाइट। अगर 10-12 मकानों के दरमियान एक स्ट्रीट लाइट लग जाए तो काफ़ी हद तक जो है रोशनी इतनी मिलेगी लोगों को, क्योंकि ये 250 से 300 वाट का एक लाइट जो है अगर 18 से 20 फीट हाइट पे लगाएं तो इतनी रोशनी तो होगी कि लोग रात के वक्त कुछ ना कुछ बेहतर एक्टिविटी कर सकें। अब इस प्रोजेक्ट का एक और कंपोनेंट है, हम क्योंकि इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के डेवलपमेंट के साथ बहुत ज़रूरी है कि हम एक प्लेटफॉर्म क्रिएट करें जहाँ पे लोग आके इंटरेक्ट करें, अपने जो प्रॉब्लम हैं वो डिस्कस करें, और वो उन डिस्कशन में एक अपना नेटवर्क डेवलप करें और इंटरेक्ट करें गवर्नमेंट के साथ, क्योंकि अल्टीमेटली जो मसले हैं वो गवर्नमेंट को ही हल करने हैं। तो इस प्लेटफॉर्म के तहत अभी इस वक्त जो डिस्कशन और फोरम्स हो रहे हैं उनमें ज़्यादातर फ्लड रिलेटेड इश्यूज़ पे जो है बातचीत हो रही है। इसमें कोई लिमिट नहीं है किसी भी सब्जेक्ट पे, ये डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल के प्लेटफॉर्म है, तीनों डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स में अलग अलग है, वो डिस्कशन हो सकती है। थैंक यू बहुत बहुत।
Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Muhammad Yunus discussed a case study on sustaining communities. He identified that the major problem in Sangar and nearby areas is poverty, and then he discussed the another major problem is housing and how we can contribute by intervening at the current stage by providing support to the locals while they are somehow trying to build their own mud houses. He also described how they are supporting the locals voluntarily through his project. Now it's time for the presentation of mementos and our sustainable gifts to our presenters. I request Engineer Suhail Bashir, Chairman IP Karachi Center, and Engineer Abbas Sajid, former President of ASHRAE Pakistan Chapter, to please come forward for the presentation of mementos to our presenters of this technical session 1. I respect Mr. Arif Hassan Sahab to please come forward to receive his sustainable gift. The sustainable gift consists of a bag which is prepared by the recycled material at NED and a succulent plant. Now I request Ms. Nusrat Nasab to please come forward. Now I request Architect Muhammad Yunus to please come forward and receive his sustainable gifts. Thank you so much, everyone. It's time for the tea break, and we will gather here at around 11:30 for our next session, which is technical session number 4. The theme of the technical session number 4 is sustainable cities and urban regions. Please gather for the tea.